most successful executives, rising to become the influential chairman and CEO of Lockheed Martin, a global leader in aerospace and technology. A veteran of 2 stints in the Pentagon, he has been a strong exponent of public service in the national interest. Long a prominent figure in policy circles, he has been called the most influential non-scientist in U.S. science. As chair of federal councils and committees, he has played a leading role in shaping the U.S. space program. As chair of a National Academies Commission that produced the landmark report, Rising Above the Gathering Storm, he has forcefully urged support for basic science research as a wellspring of innovation and prosperity. As a trustee at Princeton, MIT, the University of Maryland, and Johns Hopkins, he has been a staunch advocate for higher education. Past chair of the American Red Cross, author of 4 books, and an avid outdoorsman who has ventured to both the North and South Poles, he has received the Defense Department's highest civilian honor 5 times, as well as the National Medal of Technology. We honor Norman Augustine.
Norm Augustine, really a giant champion of science and technology. That Augustine report really still
energized by the promise of the endless frontier, devoted to science in the nation's service, a tiger of industry with a zest for adventure. Be it ideas or rockets, he has an eye for what will fly. Norman R. Augustine, Doctor of Laws.
He's also been to both the North and South Pole, I learned last night.
In introducing our next guest, celebrated composer of music scores and conductor laureate of the Boston Pops, music seems more fitting than words.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Ding 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 dong, ding ding dong, ding 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 dong, ding 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 dong, ding 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 dong, ding ding dong, ding dong, ding 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 dong, ding ding zoom zoom dum zoom zoom dum zoom zoom dum zoom zoom dang 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 dang.
Great acapella groups performing this medley of the great tunes of John Williams.
We honor the maestro who has written music for more than 100 movies, who has been nominated for more Academy Awards than any living being, terrestrial or extra, and whom his collaborator Steven Spielberg calls one of the great storytellers of all time, John Williams.
Not only in Boston, but around the country, heralded for the years he spent at the Boston Pops as well.
The Superman of music for the movies, whose scores of scores propel great stories skyward. His melodies dwell deep inside our memories. His harmonies induce our hearts to soar. John Towner Williams, Doctor of Music.
When she was 4, she figured out that writing poems and then reciting them for her mother had the happy result of postponing her bedtime. She still thinks back fondly on her earliest opus. Zip, zip through the air comes a fearful bear, His name is Lightning, and when he comes, you can see the whole sky brightening. How apposite today. From her early fascination with words sprang a lifelong love of literature and a career as a groundbreaking literary critic and distinguished poet and essayist. Her 1979 book, The Mad Woman in the Attic, co-written with Susan Gubar, has been called a stunning moment for literary criticism. As one reviewer said, it offered a bold new interpretation of the great 19th century women novelists, presenting the first pervasive case for the existence of a distinctly female imagination. She and her longtime collaborator then co-wrote the landmark 3-volume series, No Man's Land, exploring the work of 20th century women writers and producing another classic of feminist literary studies. She is not just a pioneering critic, but also an award-winning poet, acclaimed for poems that, as one colleague put it, are beautifully situated at the intersection of craft and feeling. She has also written with extraordinary insight about death and the ways we grieve. Her book, Death's Door, a richly textured contemplation of mortality, has been called a superb achievement that carries us gently but powerfully toward understanding. We honor one of the leading literary critics of her generation, Distinguished Professor Emerita at the University of California, Davis, Sandra Gilbert.
Really the pioneer of feminist literary criticism. Anyone who is of my generation looked to her as really the pioneer.
Casting novel light where shadows shrouded women's writing, crafting poignant poems that both inspirit and enlighten. A pioneer of feminist studies for whom the personal is the political as well as the poetical. Sandra Mortola Gilbert, Doctor of Laws.
Our next guest grew up in Beirut during what she calls its most wonderful days. She wanted to study Shakespeare, but her mother urged science instead. She studied biology at the American University in Beirut, then started medical school there. Soon, civil war engulfed the city. Bombs fell all around. Her house was damaged. Her brother was injured by shrapnel. She went to live with relatives in Texas, hoping to return home soon, but the war in Lebanon worsened. She moved to Nashville and finished her studies at Meharry Medical College. Having returned to Texas, now at Baylor, she planned to become a pediatric cardiologist, but she grew fascinated by neurology. By chance, within 2 weeks, she saw 2 young patients with a devastating yet poorly understood disease called Rett syndrome, which she'd read about only recently. Moved by the plight of these 2 young girls, she plunged into research. Before long, she became a leading expert on the degenerative disorder known as spinocerebellar ataxia type 1. She went on to discover the elusive gene associated with Rett syndrome, and she built a career as a preeminent authority on the genetic causes and biological mechanisms of neurological diseases. Her work holds promise to advance understanding of autism, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and other diseases of the central nervous system. And it has had a wider impact on ailments from hearing loss to colon cancer. Recipient of an alphabet of honors in science and medicine, she is at once an illustrious investigator, educator, and mentor. We honor, from Baylor College of Medicine and the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, Huda Zoghbi.
From dauntless young woman who never lost nerve to eminent expert on the nervous system's workings, she patiently translates the language of life so that patients might realize the promise of life. Huda Y. Zoghbi, Doctor of Science.
Wonderful, distinguished neurologist.
He has faced down virulent racism while boxing his way to the heavyweight title. He has rendered heroic service in the Venetian army, then succumbed to the treachery of Iago. He has experienced the glory of baseball stardom and the travails of a hard life that followed. He has sought to lure Luke Skywalker to the dark side, and then slain an emperor to rescue his son. As a humble priest, he has strived to rebuild the South African village in the era of apartheid. And as a humble chauffeur, he has driven Miss Daisy in the days of Jim Crow. As the noble Jaffe Joffer, father of Prince Hakeem, he has ruled as king of Zamunda. And as the noble Mufasa, father of Simba, he has ruled as king of the jungle. The National Medal of Arts, lifetime awards from both the Screen Actors Guild and the American Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, a Tony Award for lifetime achievement soon to come. And that voice, resonant and deep and utterly unmistakable. All this after overcoming a severe stutter as a child, which for years often left him mute. Born in rural Mississippi, raised in Michigan, initially a pre-med in college, an Army veteran, he was a night janitor in off-Broadway theaters before emerging as one of America's most accomplished and admired actors on both stage and screen. We salute the great James Earl Jones.
Accompanied by his faculty escort, the director of the ART, behind him to the right.
Just 2 months ago, he appeared at the ART stage in Tennessee Williams' play, Night of the
An
Iguana.
actor of inimitable power, whose roles bespeak his singular resources. When he a round, unvarnished tale delivers, there's never any doubt with whom the force is. James Earl Jones, Doctor of Arts.
Having already welcomed an iconic voice and a composer of music from the land of the Jedi, far, far away, today on the 40th anniversary of the opening of Star Wars, we recognize one of the most accomplished people ever to have celebrated a Star Wars-themed bar mitzvah.
Who is his escort?
It was clear from childhood that the Force is strong with this one. Even before he turned 13, he created ZuckNet, a home computer network designed for his father's dental office in Dobbs Ferry, New York. He wasn't your ordinary teenager. He was fascinated by ancient Greek and Latin. He was the pride of his school's fencing team. But beyond that, there was his eye-opening ability to code. That, and his uncanny foresight in seeing that people wanted computers to connect them not just with other computers, but with other people. He came to Harvard as a freshman nearly 15 years ago in the fall of 2002. As a sophomore, he moved into Kirkland House. There he launched the forerunner. There he launched the forerunner of what has grown into the most far-reaching social network on the planet. He left college for Silicon Valley. He dropped the from the Facebook. He combined his technical prowess, his entrepreneurial savvy, and his instincts about social behavior to build Facebook into a global phenomenon, something that is now used by 1.94 billion people worldwide on a regular basis. It is with the greatest of pride, having confirmed that his bills are fully paid, that we welcome back Mark Zuckerberg to at last earn his Harvard degree.
Remarkably young for this crowd, and yet amazingly accomplished.
Genitor Maximus Libre Facierum. From a whiteboard in Kirkland House to one hacker way. He has forged a transformation through the power of connection and set his sights on how bold new ideas can serve the world. Mark Elliot Zuckerberg, Doctor of Laws.
His first Harvard degree, the Doctor of Law.
In the name of this Society of Scholars, I declare that these persons are entitled to the rights and privileges pertaining to their several degrees, and that their names are to be forever borne on its roll of honorary members.
Degree candidates and their guests and all alumni are warmly invited to attend the afternoon session of Commencement Day exercises under the direction of the Harvard Alumni Association. The alumni procession will begin at 1:45 p.m. and the exercises will begin at 2:30 p.m. The commencement speakers will be Mr. Mark Elliot Zuckerberg and the president of Harvard University. Now, the commencement choir director will lead us in the singing of the commencement hymn. Following the hymn, the PUSEY minister will pronounce the benediction. The commencement exercises then being ended, the Sheriff of Middlesex County will declare the meeting adjourned. The audience is requested to remain seated until the president and fellows and their guests have withdrawn from the platform.
Life is short, and time is filled with swift transition. Thus, we do not have much time to gladden the hearts of those who travel along life's journey with us. Thus, be swift to love. Make haste to be kind. Be quick to compliment and slow to criticize. And remember, never speak a word of judgment without first speaking a word of grace. And if we do these things, we will begin to approximate what it means to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before our God. And most importantly, class of 2017, we say to you on this day,
may the force be with you.
The great bass voice of James Earl Jones.
Recognizable anywhere. And here comes the High Sheriff of Middlesex County to end the ceremony.
As the High Sheriff of Middlesex County, I declare that the meeting will be adjourned!
And now the bells.
the bells from across Cambridge, all the way to the 17 wonderful bells of the Lowell Tower Bell Tower that will actually be silent for the next 2 years during our renovation. And a
now-
wonderful, wonderful commencement.
Wonderful commencement despite the weather. The recession begins. Members of the corporation and the overseers, and then the deans and the faculty will slowly come off stage, retreat for a little bite of lunch, and then return for the afternoon exercises.
I think some of the things that our commencement speakers said are worth remembering at this point. I go back to the Latin oration. She said, even now we stand not at the end of a story that's work seems unfinished, just as Virgil's Aeneas was unfinished, and we need to go and finish our lives. This is just the beginning. And then we had that wonderful address by the young undergraduate who had begun her 6-year-old life in first grade at the time of the marathon of the bombing of the World Trade Center.
There's Judy Dench with her and Walter Massey, both heading off from their honorary degree.
She said, as we walk through these gates, let's choose our weapons wisely, hope and courage and love in the face of fear. And what wonderful examples these honorands have given these graduates today, whether they're from the class of 2017 or